My first garden was, we were in an apartment house. This was before I was even thinking about anything like this. And I bought a window box. Oh. And that was all we were allowed to have in the apartment. And I had great big dahlias in there. I mean, I thought I could plant longwood gardens in this window box. You know. I was married and we eventually had kids. My husband went to law school, and so I worked and did all that, and but we eventually had kids. But then when they were about, my youngest of the 5 was about first grade, my husband said, now if you want a career, which I had been talking about, you're going to have to get started because it takes a long time to get established. So, and he found a program. The first one was at Georgetown University, and it was for women re-entering the job market, and it was called New Horizons. They said you should go for interviews. I've forgotten what we called them, but they were interviews where you didn't ask for a job. Informational interviews, exactly right. And so I did, and the thing that drew me, they tested us, and it came out that I liked landscape. Horticulture. So in one of my interviews, my informational interviews, I went to the landscape architect for Alexandria. We lived in Old Town at the time. And he said, you know, something you got to think about. Do you want to be public or private? And I'd never thought about that. But I thought, you know, I think it's public, because I've always loved visiting gardens and want to talk about them. I wanted to dig into them and find out. Yeah. So the next thing that came after meeting this man that said public or private, I went to the flower show in Washington at the Civic Center, and it was the first year that the Smithsonian had ever entered the show. They had a new program in horticulture, brand new. And before, they hadn't had any gardens there, and they'd hired a young man from Longwood, and he was just turning that place upside down, which was fantastic. So I walked in and saw that, and that was all it took. I went up in the balcony and looked at it down, looked down at it, I walked around it, I went inside, outside. And the next day I called him up, and so we tried to get together. Finally did, and I walked in and I never left. I did research, I did for the exhibitions, I did the historic background. I was the historian, yeah. But I learned as I went. I didn't know all this when I came in. And we had a library that we started there in a shoebox for our office, and it started this big, and it got bigger and bigger, and then finally it's huge, it's wonderful. There really are no rules as far as gardens, and if the maintenance is good, I don't think you can miss. Yeah. And usually they're not created unless somebody really wanted to do it, because not that many people have the vision to see that a bare spot of land or a trashy place could be a beautiful garden. Yeah. And so somebody has to say, oh, you know, we really should do that. And then the inspiration also comes with somebody that has a vision and has an inspiration, and somebody that has money to do it. So you get the background. Yeah. But the DuPonts, you know, with Longwood and with Winterthur and with Eleutherian Mills and Nemours and Mount Cuba, they all had both those families. It's often the age they were in was when great fortunes were being made, and America was new, and income tax wasn't, you know, so they made the great family fortunes, bankers, railroad magnates, just, you know, any way they could, and it wasn't that hard. They also, the people with the grand estates, there was a period where they went from townhouses to country estates, and that was probably that period, maybe 1890 through the crash, probably. I don't know. precisely. I haven't really thought about that. But the main thing I think is if you're going to do a garden and in choice of plants, for me, is that I try to pick plants that can live in their natural form, unless you particularly want a sheared look or a particular shape to a plant. But so that you have to be patient enough to think like 5 years ahead, how big is that one going to be? And then am I going to be happy with it, or will I have to hack at it? Because some of them don't respond to that at all, or well. And, but that's to think ahead. But most people want up in some kind of an instant gratification. So if you commit to a garden, you have to be able to take care of it. And then you start right from the beginning. That's the only thing I'm kind of pedantic about, is that if you can't, you shouldn't take on too much. But if you do something and take care of it, and when things are small and they don't belong, you decide you don't like it or you prefer something else, then take it out then before it has a chance to get established and maybe get to be too much. Or if you see a little bit of wiregrass, get rid of it, you know.
Yeah.